Imagine a person who is not the smartest in the room, not the most attractive, not the most charismatic, talented, or impressive. When they enter, nobody stops talking. They do not dominate the conversation. They do not inspire immediate admiration. But then, one day, they disappear, and suddenly, nothing works. Decisions slow down, people become nervous, conflicts begin to spread, information stops moving, small problems turn into serious ones. Only then does everyone understand the truth they rarely admit. In a real hierarchy, the winner is not always the best person. It is often the person whose absence becomes dangerous. We are raised to believe that life is a fair competition of qualities. Study harder, work harder, become more talented, prove that you are smarter, stronger, more disciplined, and more capable than everyone else. We are told that the best people naturally rise to the top. But look at reality. How many brilliant people remain invisible? How many talented employees are ignored? How many intelligent people spend their lives watching less impressive individuals receive more influence, protection, money, and authority? The reason is uncomfortable. Talent alone does not create power. Talent creates admiration. Sometimes it creates envy. Sometimes it creates insecurity in other people. But being necessary creates dependence, and dependence is much closer to power. Machiavelli understood that human beings are not controlled only by admiration. They are controlled by fear of loss. People may appreciate excellence, but they protect whatever makes their lives stable. This means that the person who rises is not always the person everyone admires. It is often the person everyone is afraid to lose. Think about the workplace. One employee may be extremely talented. They are intelligent, creative, hardworking, and capable of solving difficult problems, but they work alone. Their role is clear. Their skills can be explained. Another qualified person could eventually replace them. Then there is a second employee. Perhaps this person is not as brilliant, but they know how the entire system works. They know who can be trusted. They understand the hidden tensions between departments. They know how to calm difficult people, how to prevent conflicts, how to translate the wishes of management into actions others can understand. They remember the mistakes nobody documented. They know where the weaknesses are. They know which person must be called when something goes wrong. Who is more dangerous to lose? Usually it is the second person. The first is talented. The second is part of the structure. This is the architecture of indispensability. It is not simply about being good at your job. It is about connecting your value to the stability of other people. Your presence stops being a useful option. It becomes part of their sense of safety. Once this happens, people no longer ask only, "Is this person talented?" They begin asking a different question. What happens to us if this person leaves? That question changes everything. As long as you are simply good, you can be replaced by someone better. But when your disappearance creates confusion, risk, conflict, fear, or financial loss, your personal qualities become less important. The system begins to protect you because removing you feels expensive. This principle exists far beyond business. It appears in friendship, politics, family, and love. The most attractive person does not always become the most important partner. The most entertaining person does not always become the closest friend. Very often, the person who becomes central is the one who reduces another person's sense of instability. They become a source of order, a place of emotional safety, the person who knows what to say during a crisis, the person who makes the world feel less chaotic. That can be a beautiful form of connection, but it can also become a form of control. There is a healthy way to become necessary, and there is a dark way. The healthy person creates real value. They solve problems, but they also teach others. They bring people together, but they do not make themselves the only possible connection. They make the system stronger, even if that means the system will eventually need them less. Their value does not depend on keeping everyone weak. The unhealthy person does the opposite. They make themselves necessary by protecting confusion. They do not share everything they know. They avoid transparency.
They refuse to train possible replacements. They keep processes complicated because a clear system might function without them. At first, they appear extremely useful. They are always the person who knows the answer. Every important decision passes through them. Every crisis seems to require their involvement. But slowly, their usefulness becomes a prison for everyone else. They are no longer solving chaos. They are quietly maintaining it.
Because if the chaos disappeared, so would their power. This is where indispensability becomes domination. The dark triad personalities understand this mechanism especially well. A narcissist wants to appear superior. They want admiration, attention, and recognition. But admiration is unstable. The crowd that praises you today may forget you tomorrow. A more strategic narcissist eventually understands that it is not enough to be admired. They must become the person whose approval others need. A Machiavellian personality goes further. They may not care about looking like the strongest person. They care about being included in every serious calculation. They collect information, loyalty, favors, debts, and access. They position themselves between people who need each other. Their goal is simple: make every important move feel risky without them. A psychopath may use the same principle even more aggressively because they feel less guilt about exploiting fear, dependence, or emotional weakness. This explains why the most influential person is not always the loudest, not the most intelligent, not the most visible. Sometimes the person with the greatest real weight is the one whose removal would disturb the entire balance. This is why focusing only on becoming the best can become a trap. You may spend years developing your abilities while ignoring the environment around you. You become more skilled, but you never study who makes decisions. You work harder, but you never ask what the system actually needs. You improve your performance, but you never understand whose fear you reduce, whose problems you solve, or whose stability you protect. The crucial question is not only, how good am I? It is also, who begins to lose when I am gone? Whose life becomes harder? Whose anxiety increases? Which process becomes unstable? Which conflict returns? Which important connection disappears? Real influence does not exist in the abstract. It exists inside relationships of need. A hierarchy is not simply a ranking of human quality. It is a network of dependence. Who relies on whom? Who protects whom? Who connects people who otherwise would not cooperate? Who becomes the nervous system of the organization, even without holding the highest title? Once you see this, people begin to look different. The loudest person may not be the most powerful. The most impressive person may not carry the most weight. The most respected person on paper may not be the most dangerous to remove. The danger is that once you understand this principle, you may begin building your entire identity around being needed. You may stop asking, "Who am I becoming?" and start asking only, "How can I make people depend on me?" For a while, this works. People become careful around you. Your opinion matters more. Your anger becomes expensive. Your weaknesses are tolerated because losing you appears too risky. But there is a hidden price. If your value depends entirely on other people needing you, then independence begins to feel like rejection. You become threatened by people who learn too quickly. You dislike transparent systems. You fear strong, autonomous individuals. You may even sabotage progress, because progress could reduce dependence on you. And eventually, you face a painful question. If nobody needs me, who am I? This is the psychological cost of building power through necessity. You may become respected without being loved, useful without being known, important as a function, but invisible as a human being. You may no longer know whether people remain close because they genuinely choose you, or because they are afraid of life without you. That is why the highest form of leadership is not creating weak people who cannot survive without you. It is creating stronger people while still remaining valuable. A mature leader shares knowledge. They build systems. They teach others to make decisions. They create order without turning that order into a personal kingdom. They do not need everyone to stay confused in order to feel powerful. Their presence improves the entire structure, but their absence does not destroy everything they built. This is a deeper kind of influence, not being the best for the sake of vanity, not being necessary for the sake of domination, but becoming the kind of person whose presence raises the quality of everyone around them. Still, the rule of real hierarchy remains harsh. The world may praise talent. It may celebrate intelligence, beauty, creativity, and ambition. But systems protect what they cannot afford to lose. So do not spend your entire life trying to look superior. Learn to create value that is connected to real needs. Understand people. Understand processes. Find the point where confusion, fear, and disorder are costing everyone something. Then become the person who brings clarity. But remember the difference between strength and control. Do not create problems so that people need you to solve them. Do not keep others weak so that you can remain important. Do not become a prison disguised as safety. Become necessary because you make people, relationships, and systems stronger. Because the final truth is simple. In a real hierarchy, the winner is rarely the person with the most impressive qualities. It is the person whose absence becomes too expensive. The person whose presence creates stability. The person people may not always praise, but cannot afford to lose.